What are the right and wrong ways to use the digital SAT practice tests? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. I'm Kristina of IB Lounge Test Prep, and I've helped students all over the globe for the last 15 years dramatically raise their SAT and ACT test scores and ultimately land a spot at their dream universities and colleges. So let's get started. So I get it. If you are an SAT test taker, you're probably wondering, like, why is this Kristina chick so obsessed with the proper usage of practice tests? Okay, so if you're taking the digital SAT, you have a little conundrum. I mean, I'll walk you through it, don't worry. But you have a little problem that your friends, your older brother and sister, your older cousins many years ago did not have. And that is this: you have very few real practice tests to get to use to prepare you for test day. Okay. So before we had the digital SAT, there was the old SAT. That one had 10 practice tests, still not the best news. Before that, oh my gosh, there were dozens. So many. Students would just be like doing some sections for homework, right? Here's the deal. It is not the case. As of now, as of March 2025, we officially have 7 practice tests on BlueBook that you can use. Okay, so when the digital SAT was first released, we only had 4 practice tests to use. Like, it sucked. Okay. There were practice tests 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that was it. And sure, you could either do the Blue Book ones where it's adaptive and the best testing experience, or even the linear ones on the College Board's website that were PDFs. But they weren't different tests. They were just, linear test 1 was using the same questions as the Blue Book one. So those were not like 4 and 4. It was not 8 different tests. It was just literally 4 different tests. And it was really, really hard. Okay. Now, about a year ago, College Board released practice tests 5 and 6. Awesome. So now we have 6 tests. Still not a lot. You still have to ration them, but that was better. Okay. Then we had a curveball thrown at us literally a month ago. So February 3rd of 2025, College Board retired Blue Book practice tests 1, 2, and 3. And you're like, uh-oh, now I only have 4, 5, and 6. But they released practice tests 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so the current lineup is as follows. We have practice tests 4, 5, 6. 7 is a totally new test. And then 8, 9, and 10 are new, but they kind of recycle some of the questions that were in the now retired practice tests 1, 2, and 3. So if you're just starting now, in essence, you've got 7 practice tests, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 7 different tests. So the bad news is that we still have very finite number of tests, okay? That's 7. That's not a lot. And if you're taking the digital SAT, say you're going to take it 2 times, even 3 times, how do we get them to stretch out? Okay. So don't mess this up because there are such limited resources. So that's why this video is so important. So a lot of you might be like, yeah, but can I use other practice tests like, Princeton Review or Kaplan, and don't all these other companies out there have practice tests? And here's the deal. Yes, they do. They are helpful for certain things, but they are not the same as and not as good as official College Board SAT practice tests. Okay. See, when a test prep company writes a practice test, sure, they're going to do their very best to make it just like the real SAT. But the thing is, it's still not a reliable way to track your progress, right? So these tests, yes, a very valiant effort at mimicking the real thing. They're always gonna differ from the real SAT in ways that just make them less useful to your preparation. So what do I mean by that? So they might not have like the right proportion of question difficulties. So, it's computer adaptive. You do well on the first module, you're going to get the harder second module. But the difficulty level of those questions, it might not actually be the appropriate amount of like medium, hards, and difficults. Or maybe that first module isn't the appropriate amount of easies, mediums, and difficult. Okay. So they're not going to get that quite right all the time. The other thing is that they tend to not have the correct amount of certain question types. Okay. So I've analyzed all the Blue Book practice tests, right? That means the official practice tests, but you take them in the Blue Book app, so they're computer adaptive. So all the modules, especially the reading, writing, they're going to go in a certain order and they ask a certain number of each type of question or ranges, right? So you might get on one module one logically completes question, but then on another you get two or none. But a Kaplan or a Princeton Review or another test prep company's practice tests that they have made, it might have two logically completes in both modules, and that's usually rare. Or they might not have enough standard English convention, i.e. grammar questions per module, or they might overdo it with the sentence completions and underdo it with the claims. So there tend to not be the appropriate amount of certain types of questions that need to be asked. In the math, right? They might be asking too many problem solving and data analysis and not enough about the advanced math. Okay. Or sure, maybe they'll keep to their percentages and 35% really is going to be advanced math and 35% is going to be algebra. But within there, they're asking too much about quadratics and too few things about, say, rational expressions and exponents. So they're not going to get the combinations of content areas right the way, obviously, a real College Board practice test would. And finally, the curves or the grading rubrics on practice tests that are not official practice tests, they're not going to be very reliable. They're just not. It's going to be a test prep company trying to figure out what they think that many questions correct would give you score-wise. But you know who's going to know what score it should be? It would be the College Board, the one who actually makes the real SAT and then doles out your actual real score based on the number of questions you got right per module and thus per section of the digital SAT. So in short, it's kind of like you're going to karaoke and you're going to sing Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan. But it's not by Chappell Roan, because if you ever go to karaoke, it'll say it's in the style of the artist, right? It's in the style of Chappell Roan. So that's the thing. Yeah, you're going to recognize the song. You're going to love singing it. The chord progressions, the lyrics, those will all be the same, but it's not the real deal, right? The thing is, when you're prepping for a test as high stakes and as important as your SAT, that really makes a difference. So that is why I strongly, strongly recommend that we don't just use tutoring companies' practice tests to prep, okay? And we really have to treat these currently 7 official Blue Book practice tests as the gold that they are. So hi there, if you're just tuning in, my name is Kristina of Ivy Lunch Test Prep, and for the past 15 years, I've helped high schoolers all around the globe gain access to their dream colleges, first by helping them raise their SAT and ACT test scores, and then by writing the college application essays of their dreams. So I have a question to ask you right now, and that is, have you taken any of the official Blue Book practice tests thus far? And more importantly, do you still have any left that you have not taken yet? Okay. Just write it in the comments below. I want to see where you're at. I read all the comments and I respond when I can. And while you're at it, just go ahead and like this video and just subscribe to my channel. And that way, every week when I give you the latest in SAT and ACT and college application essay updates, you'll be the first to know. Okay, let's talk about the right way to use the 7 current official SAT practice tests, which are practice tests 4 through 10, because they have retired practice tests 1, 2, and 3 as of February 2025. Okay, so you are going to use SAT practice test 4. That's the first one in our lineup, right? That's going to be your diagnostic test so that you understand where you are now and what you need to work on. Now, you're going to do this in as close to testing conditions as you possibly can. I have a post to tell you how to take a test in testing conditions. I will include that in the show notes below. But you are going to do practice test 4, which is the first one that you have access to now, and then that will be your diagnostic. Before your first SAT test date, right? We're going to use 3 of them, 2 to 3, but no more than 3 to prep before you sit to take the real SAT the first time. So which ones are those going to be? That we already used 4 as our diagnostic, right? So it's going to be 5, 6, and 7. We'll be able to use those. Now, the trick is we want to do these 2 to 3 practice tests, right? In the 4 to 5 weeks leading up to test day. And you want to simulate real testing conditions if you can. Sure, you can do it at home, but you can still wake up, do it in the morning. No distractions, no food, no drinks, nothing. Obviously, BlueBook app is timing you, so you don't have to worry about that. But you're going to do it in as real testing conditions as you can muster. Okay. So before you take your second attempt at the SAT, which you probably will have to do, right? Remember, we only have 3 tests left. We have 8, 9, and 10. We can allocate 2 of them for the second test sitting that you're going to do. So in the month before you take the SAT for the second time, then you can use practice tests 8 and 9. I would probably like space them out like every other weekend, something like that. Maybe like 3 weeks before the test and then 1 week before the test, or 4 weeks before the test and then 2 weeks before your test. Do them on a weekend and a morning, again, as close to testing conditions as possible. So now we saved one, right? So if you followed my advice so far, you should still have practice test 10. And we want that one just in case you need to take the test a third time. Okay. And you'd probably do this one in the 2 weeks leading up to your test day. So since we clearly have like each test earmarked for a special spot in your study plan, you've rightly identified that we should not use these gems, like literally these 7 golden practice tests, for anything other than a timed diagnostic or a mock test. So here's the wrong way to use the 7 official SAT practice tests that we currently have, okay? You just want to try out some math problems. Again, not what the practice tests are for. You just want to do a module for homework to, just like do a little bit of work and say that you did something for your tutor or get your mom off your back. No, that is not what we use these for. 3, you just want to try out like a reading strategy, like let's say a sentence completion strategy, or, just work through a double passage or try a poetry question. Or no, that's not what we're using this for. You only want to do like one of the 2 modules. You're not even going to complete a section. No, absolutely not. You're wasting the test. You want to do any portion of the test, but you don't want to time yourself. Again, absolute no. When we do a full test, we want it to be timed in the app to simulate testing conditions. Okay, you'll do a couple sections of it now, like you'll do module 1 and module 2 now, and then you'll do like, the 2 math modules later. No, that is not simulating a true testing condition, and you've just like wasted your test. Or like the 7th one is you do anything, right? You attempt any of the tests, but you were distracted. You were doing it in the middle of the night, not in the morning. You were eating and snacking and had the TV on and were texting while you were doing it. Basically, if you were not simulating a test environment, even if you're timing yourself, even if you're doing the whole test, you just wasted the practice test. Okay. So it truly like makes me cringe and even like cry a little bit on the inside, just thinking about when students waste one of these 7 practice tests in one of the ways I just described. So guess what? If you just want to do a section or a module or try a few questions, awesome. That's what you can use those test prep company practice tests for, right? That's what they're there for. Or if you want to do a test, but you don't really feel like timing it, which I don't know why, or you're not going to be in testing conditions, then surely to file a Kaplan or a Princeton Review or a Barron's practice test, use one of those. But don't do that with one of our 7 from the College Board when that's currently all we have. Okay, makes sense? Awesome. So as always, I am here at ivyloungetestprep.com to help you out with any of this. And if you are studying and you want to raise your reading writing section score of the digital SAT, I actually have a free masterclass for you. It is called The 3 Biggest Mistakes to Avoid on the digital SAT's reading and writing section. So check it out in the link below.